maybe we skipped a detail just then. But we got it in, right? So last week we talked about how details are important. And today, when you walked in, you got a detail. And then you had to put that detail into a larger picture. And the puzzle's finished. There are a couple pieces missing, but, we do what we can. But the puzzle is put together earlier now, so you couldn't figure out what it was, and you want to see it. You can see it afterwards, but it's Scully from Monsters, Inc. I think that's his name. So the scripture that Anna read is from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, and Paul is writing to the church at Corinth, and this chapter 13, is the love chapter. The chapter talks about what love is. Paul goes through and he defines all these things that love is, which is super interesting if you know anything about Paul and how hateful he was before the Damascus Road incident. And so when you think about this man that really knows how to hate people, teaching other people how to love people, it's a really powerful testimony to how God can transform our lives. That's anything over there. I want to read a couple extra verses. I really liked that slide, and that's why I picked that specific verse, just because I like the slide I already put together, but I'm going to read a couple extra verses. So 1 Corinthians chapter 13 starts with, "If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but I do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith so as to remove mountains, but do not love, I am nothing. If I give away all of my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but have not love, I gain nothing." And then he goes into love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude, and it continues. So the details are important. Your gifts are important. Your gifts for ministry, the gifts of prophecy, the different gifts that God has given you. If you can sing, if you can dance, if you're really good at organizing things, if you have great gifts of hospitality, all of those things are important. The detail, your piece of the puzzle, is important. I talk about Steve Jobs probably more than most people who preach. I don't know why, I just think he's cool. Steve Jobs was a person who cared about attention to detail, every single detail. His staff reported spending 30 minutes while they went over different hues of gray for the bathroom signs in his first office building. He obsessed about every detail of the way Apple products looked and functioned. He wanted the bars at the top of every window to look a specific way on the first Mac. He wanted them to have pinstripes. One of the main Mac developers said, "We must have gone through 20 different title bar designs before he was happy." And some of the people said to him, "You're wasting time. These little tweaks just aren't that important." And apparently, Steve Jobs lost his temper. He said, "Can you imagine looking at that every day? It's not just a little thing. It's something we have to do right." There's another story which is recently reported on the radio that talks about another part of his attention to detail. On a Sunday morning, Steve Jobs called the CEO of Google Plus, whose name is Vic something, and I can't pronounce his last name. And he got a call during his Sunday service, and the number was unknown. He didn't answer the phone, and Steve Jobs left a message, and he said he had something urgent to discuss with him. So after service, Vic returned his call, and he said this, "Hey Steve, this is Vic. I'm sorry I didn't pick up your call earlier. I was in a church service, and the caller ID said unknown, so I didn't pick up." And Steve laughed, and he said, "Vic, unless the caller ID said God, you should never pick up during services." I laughed nervously. This is Vic talking. After all, while it was customary for Steve to call during the week upset about something, it was unusual for him to call me on a Sunday and ask me to call his home. I wondered what was so important. So Vic, we have an urgent issue, one that I need addressed right away. I've already assigned someone from my team to help you. I hope you can fix this tomorrow, said Steve. I've been looking at the Google logo on the iPhone and I'm not happy with the icon. The second O in Google doesn't have the right yellow gradient. It's just wrong. I'm going to have Greg fix it tomorrow. Is that okay with you? So Steve Jobs knew what it meant to pay attention to detail, and he was very successful. We can all be more successful at just about anything, including our Christian walk, if we pay a little closer attention to detail. Your puzzle piece tonight is about detail. But if the bigger picture is off, then you miss the whole point. Love is more important than the attention to detail. You can get all the other stuff right, but if it isn't leading you to love, you're doing it wrong, or at least for the wrong reasons. Maybe you're doing it for the reward. Maybe you're doing it for points and not in a genuine reason. Have you ever met a person who identified or called themselves a Christian, and maybe they were really involved in church? Maybe they did all the right things, but they just had a nasty disposition. Maybe they were just downright mean. Now, we all have bad days and difficult periods in our life, so I don't mean that. I'm not talking about me being grumpy. But I can be. We can all be grumpy, right? It's all right. I own it. I know it. We all have bad days and difficult times in our life. But I mean someone that you've known for a long time, and they just seem to be miserable. Maybe that person isn't feeling very loved. Maybe they never learned what it really meant to give love. Maybe they missed the bigger picture. Try loving them and see if they don't blossom. Will it be easy to love someone who's mean to you? Probably not. Love isn't always easy. It usually isn't easy. If it was easy, then it might not actually be love, in fact. If it doesn't take any effort, then I challenge you to wonder if it's really love that you're given. I talk about grace and love a lot. And maybe it seems redundant, and maybe it seems so simple, just love each other and you'll be okay, but we can't just move on from that. Because what Paul is getting at in Scripture is that the church was getting wrapped up in the law, in the rules, and in who and what they thought they'd been gifted with. And Paul says, wait, y'all. I think Paul said y'all. Don't you think Paul said y'all? I think Paul said y'all. Wait, y'all. You're missing the point. If you're not doing all that stuff with love, then you're doing it wrong. Don't lose focus. We know what love is if we keep reading 1 Corinthians, right? Paul defines it for us. But how do you do stuff with love? Jesus showed us that. Jesus showed us love by being loyal. When Peter betrayed him, Jesus continued, or denied him, Jesus continued to love him. He showed us love through compassion, healing people who were suffering, reaching out to people who were sick. He showed love by listening to people who the disciples even tried to shoo away. He doesn't have time for you. Little children, let the children come to me. He showed love by being consistent. He taught nonviolence, and when it was all said and done, he defeated death while remaining an earthly peacemaker. And he taught love through forgiveness. Even as he hung on the cross, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. We've talked about agape love, actually, in this service before, and what it means to love in a transformative way. What are the ways that you can love others in order to transform the world? The world doesn't have to be the world. The world can be the world. This room, your neighbor. What are the ways that you can show love to transform the world? I challenge you to think about that.